Hey there people, how you doing? So, Apple just had their WWDC and yeah, no hardware launches this time. It was expected. But there are some teensy bits of surprises. But man, I have to say I am so glad, and not only am I excited but also a little worried about how it's going to be for the new ARM processors that Apple's going to put in the Macs. Ditching Intel, well, we'll talk about that soon. First, let's talk about iOS 14, which, in my opinion, well, it's nice. It's going to be really nice because Android iOS 14, yeah, we're going to mix that term a lot because, well, they're very similar now. At least way more similar than they were before. Because first and foremost, I believe we have something equivalent of an app drawer. And best of all, you can also hide the app screens, which, well, you don't want to see on your home screen. I have to say, now, the iOS overall feels so much more refined in my opinion, because being able to just put away your unused apps and keeping only the ones you use is just, man, it's so good. I don't know why Apple didn't do this to date, but well, they did it. That's all I care about, to be honest. Next up, we also have home screen widgets. That's right. And man, they look pretty slick in my opinion because rounded corners on them, they match exactly with the apps. And I don't know, I'm really excited to try this one out. And not only that, we also have picture-in-picture. And man, I cannot tell you how glad I am that it's finally here on iPhones, because it's been in the Android world for ages now. Now that it's finally here, I believe that the software overall is a lot more polished than it ever was before. Because before this, you were just stuck with whatever you were getting out of the box. Now you can at least tweak whatever little bit you can. Unless you, of course, want to jailbreak it, which is, well, that's something else entirely. We're not going to talk about that in this video. So, other than that, well, I'd say the iOS 14 launch is actually more about tweaks and polishing, which, well, they have done one hell of a job. Along with that, we also have the new iPad OS, which, well, it's got the same characters from iOS, but, you know, bigger, more horizontal that way. But it's also got, which is also common in iOS, is Siri and phone calls. Both of them will now occur as notifications rather than just taking up the whole screen. And speaking of Siri, well, it's apparently got 20 times more facts. As a matter of fact, that is pretty awesome. So cheesy pun aside, well, I'd say that not only is Siri going to be a little bit more useful now than it was before, it'll also look a lot more cleaner. The overall aesthetics will improve quite a bit in my opinion. Other than that, well, we also have macOS 11. I mean, finally, it's about time, right? Because how long are we supposed to be stuck in macOS 10? Because by now, I don't even remember which version it was in, but, well, I remember Sierra. After that, I don't keep track. But now we have macOS 11 Big Sur. Well, the name I'm not a fan of. But that doesn't matter because I think that it's more of a design overhaul rather than anything else. And also, a very important part of it is integration with Apple's own chipsets. I'll get to that in a few moments. But as I was saying, macOS 11 in my opinion has a few more aesthetically pleasing touches that I really like. First and foremost are the much more rounded corners. And those, well, they look pretty neat, along with maybe a little bit more shading and more transparency and all that. But what struck me as a really pleasing feature is that now all of the app icons, which in the previous macOS versions were of different sizes and shapes, most importantly, will now have the same squircle shapes, and will altogether, especially in the dock, the uniformity will be just fantastic in my opinion. I honestly really like the way Apple just made everything uniform. That's, in my opinion, one of the most important ways of making macOS, well, not only uniform but also much more aesthetically pleasing. And now for the big news. Is it news of the century? Maybe. Maybe not. But it is big news because Apple is finally making the shift towards ARM chipsets. And they're ditching Intel for all of their Macs. About time, I'd say, because, well, Intel's chipsets, they've been pretty universal. I think that's the right word. But Apple, when they make their own chipsets, as far as we've seen in, say, the iPhones or even the iPads, they have had the most powerful and well-designed chips, in my opinion. And, well, since Apple controls both the software and the hardware, they can tune the software to take complete and absolute advantage of the new chipsets. Now, there are obviously two sides to this coin. Firstly, there is going to be a transition period of about 2 years, as stated by Apple themselves, because in this time span of 2 years, Apple will have both Intel MacBooks and their own Apple Silicon MacBooks. I don't even know what the hell to call them, but yeah, we'll check with that. But anyways, when these two models are present with completely different architectures overall, like on the fundamental level, the app manufacturers are gonna have a hard time deciding on exactly which apps should be optimized for which architecture, because if you optimize for ARM, then most probably the x86 architecture will suffer quite a bit. But otherwise, a very deep-rooted compatibility that Apple's had to date, because, well, the products are so less in number from their side, it makes app development much easier. But now there's going to be a bit of a, I want to say, issue here, because you'll either get extremely good performance from the ARM processors or you'll not, basically, because they're tuned for x86. And that's gonna last for a while. Until Apple finally and completely ditches Intel, this is gonna be a little issue that I'm kind of worried about, but well, it was bound to happen. If Apple would have switched to ARM anytime, this transition period would have occurred no matter what. But I believe one of the most exciting parts of this whole transition is that we'll be getting our first ARM-based Macs by the end of 2020. That's right. In this perilous year, we'll be seeing the transition of Apple from Intel to their own ARM processors. It'll be interesting, to say the least. So, that's basically all the interesting parts of WWDC, in my opinion at least. And I hope you guys enjoyed. If you did, do hit that like button, subscribe if you haven't already, and I will be seeing you guys later. Cheers.